Reality is not what it seems. Beneath the visible world lies a hidden pulse, a sacred pattern orchestrating the dance of life. Every tree, every star, every thought is just a surface echo of a deeper design, an ancient architecture woven into the fabric of the cosmos. This isn't fantasy, it's encoded truth. Across civilizations, wisdom keepers understood that reality is built on a divine blueprint. And when you learn to read that code, when you align with it, you can transform your life, your consciousness, even your destiny. Welcome to the hidden science of the masters of the net. This is not just a story about symbols or mysticism. This is about unlocking the vibrational patterns that shape all physical forms. Through the lens of sacred geometry and ancient energy systems, you're about to enter a world once reserved only for initiates, those who trained for years in the temples of Egypt, walked the energy lines of the earth, and mapped the cosmos with divine precision. These initiates knew that behind every atom, every emotion, and every shift in reality, there exists an invisible matrix, what they called the net. Today we might call it a vibrational grid, a holographic blueprint, or even a multidimensional web of consciousness. But no matter the name, the principle remains the same. Energy patterns precede and determine physical form. And when you learn to work with the patterns, you don't just observe reality, you shape it. Let's rewind time, way back, past the pyramids, past Babylon, into the golden heart of ancient Egypt. In those sacred schools of light, initiates were trained to perceive what the untrained eye could not. A shimmering network of energetic lines and nodes, vibrating just beyond physical sight. They called this the net of the netters, a divine lattice work through which the forces of nature move and take shape. What we now refer to as sacred geometry was once the language of this living net. Not just pretty shapes or architectural tricks, these were active gateways, doorways to higher realities. The ancients measured the earth with stunning precision because they understood that geometry wasn't static, it was alive. The word geometry itself tells the story. Geo, meaning earth. Metry, meaning measure. The sacred measurement of earth. But the deeper truth, these shapes weren't just measuring land, they were measuring consciousness. Long before the time of Plato, who would later catalog the 5 Platonic solids, ancient initiates were already working with these geometries in temples and rituals. Each shape held a frequency, a resonance that connected it to one of the classical elements: earth, water, air, fire, and the 5th, ether. The life force, the divine breath, known as Qi in China, Prana in India, and Ka in Egypt. The 12-sided dodecahedron, once kept secret even among initiates, was considered the form of the cosmos itself. Some traditions believed both the earth and the universe mirrored this form. And when Plato described the earth from above as a 12-sided ball, he was whispering the same mystery. Each Platonic solid is more than a shape. It's a gateway to a field of consciousness. They're not static forms, but crystallized energy. Snapshots of vibration as it condenses into matter. Now imagine this. What if the earth itself is wrapped in a grid of energy shaped by sacred geometry? In the 1970s, researcher Ivan Sanderson mapped out a strange pattern of global anomalies, places like the Bermuda Triangle, where compasses spun, time warped, and strange energies danced. These anomalies weren't random. They were located at the nodal points of a giant invisible structure, a planetary net. That net, it turns out, matches the geometry of the icosahedron, a 20-faced solid, one of the sacred forms used by the ancients. And guess where the very first point of this global grid had to be anchored? Giza. The Great Pyramid, built with such impossible precision, wasn't just a tomb or monument. It was a key, a node, a tuning fork placed on the Earth's most powerful energetic junction. From this anchor point, the ancients mapped the heavens, aligned temples, and initiated generations of spiritual scientists. Here's where it gets even deeper. The same net that exists beneath the earth also exists within you. In Indian philosophy, it's known as Indra's net, a cosmic web stretching infinitely, with jewels at each intersection. Each jewel reflects all others, symbolizing how every soul contains the whole. In modern terms, it's a holographic model of the universe. What does that mean for you? That your consciousness isn't separate. You're not isolated. You are a vibrating node in the divine net, connected to all things, reflecting and shaping the reality around you. And just as physicists now describe particles as both waves and matter, able to appear, disappear, and reappear depending on observation, ancient masters understood the same truth. That form is fluid, and energy is the true substance. That's the secret of sacred geometry. It's not about the shape. It's about the pattern of vibration that created it, the net beneath the form. So let's pause and shift our perspective, because this changes everything. What if everything solid in your world isn't truly solid at all? What if what we call matter is just frozen vibration, an echo of something deeper? This isn't just spiritual speculation. It's quantum science. Physicists now know that particles are not really little dots of matter. They're more like fluctuating waves of probability. They exist and don't exist, depending on how we observe them. They can collapse into particles or dissolve back into waves. The ancients knew this long before the equations confirmed it. They taught that behind every physical thing is a vibrational net, a matrix of pure energy and frequency. And here's the key. If you shift the vibration, you shift the form. This is the secret of vibrational medicine, of sacred geometry, of manifestation. Change the pattern, and you change the outcome. You're not stuck in matter. Matter is molded by energy, and energy is molded by consciousness. So the real power isn't in the object, it's in the field behind it. The net, the vibrational matrix, isn't just a web of physical energy. It's layered. It exists on levels beyond what we can see or touch. The ancients said the net operates on planes, subtle levels of existence that influence the material world. Modern physics avoids the term planes like it avoids anything that sounds metaphysical, but it still uses the language of dimensions, and in advanced physics, there are lots of them. To make their math work, string theorists postulate 10, 11, even 26 dimensions. Most of these we can't see or experience directly, but they're necessary for reality to function. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The ancients described higher planes of consciousness. Modern science describes higher dimensions. Different language, same truth. There's more going on than what meets the eye. So how did these dimensions unfold? We start at the very beginning, a single point. No height, no width, no depth, just pure potential. In both physics and mysticism, the point is where it all begins. In spiritual terms, it's the gateway to divine unity, the origin of all creation. When that point moves, it creates a line, the first dimension. Move that line, and you get a plane, the second dimension. Move again into depth, and you get a solid, the third dimension. But what happens when the point moves again, into a direction we can't perceive? That's the fourth dimension, a realm beyond our senses. And yet, it still leaves shadows in our world. Strange anomalies, unexplained phenomena, higher patterning that whispers, there's more. One of the most beautiful examples of this is the pentagram within a pentagon, a five-pointed star inside a five-sided shape. In sacred geometry, this is powerful. But it's not just symbolic. It's a projection, a 2D shadow of a higher dimensional form. That's the magic of sacred geometry. These aren't just drawings, they're maps of higher realities. When you meditate with these forms, when you visualize or work with them, you're tapping into fields beyond the visible world. You're reaching across the net. Now here's the big twist. These sacred patterns don't just exist in temples or on the Earth's surface, they exist within you. The same dodecahedron that encodes the Earth's power grid also shapes the human energy body. The same pentagram geometry that appears in stars and flowers emerges in the way your body stores and channels life force. Your energy system is not random, it's not chaotic, it's a reflection of cosmic intelligence. This is why every ancient tradition, from the Kabbalists to the yogis, from Egyptian priests to Chinese Taoists, mapped energy grids within the human form. They knew that mastering these grids was the key to awakening higher consciousness. In Egypt, this was the art of the masters of the net, and their teachings didn't just stay buried in stone, they've echoed through time. Today, systems like biogeometry, developed by scientists like Dr. Ibrahim Karim, are rediscovering how certain geometric shapes can resonate with specific energy planes. These shapes aren't just symbols. They can be used to tune your energy field, like a cosmic radio dial. One shape may connect to emotional balance. Another may align you to your spiritual path. Another might activate physical healing. When placed on the body or visualized with intention, these forms become more than images. They become keys. It's a return to the ancient science of energy healing, not through drugs or scalpels, but through harmonics and light and resonance, through working with the net. That's what the initiates knew. That's what the temple ceremonies were all about. They weren't praying to gods. They were learning to align with the forces behind the gods, the netters, the conscious powers of nature. They studied the net like a musician studies an instrument until they could play it. Let's now go deeper into the birthplace of this hidden knowledge, ancient Egypt. What most people see when they visit Egypt's temples are the carvings, the statues, the gold. But those were just the surface. Behind every image, behind every wall, there was another layer, the net. Before the artists even began to carve, they constructed a geometric grid, precise, deliberate, and sacred. These weren't just guidelines for drawing. These were energetic blueprints, a vibrational map that embedded power directly into the temple's walls. Modern archaeologists often dismiss this as mere technique, just a way to plan proportions. But they miss what the ancient Egyptians said themselves. This net was a living force. It was the hidden structure beneath all reality. To work with it was to master the forces of life and death. That's why the initiates trained for years in secret chambers. Not to worship gods, but to become something more. To become masters of the net. In Egyptian lore, the net was often shown as a tool for fishing or bird catching. It sounds simple, but this was a metaphor. The fish weren't animals. They were souls. Disoriented spirits caught in lower planes, unable to ascend. And the trained initiate, the master of the net, was the one who could navigate these layers of reality, freeing the trapped, guiding the lost, and activating higher consciousness. It's all in the sacred texts. In the Book of Coming Forth into Light, better known today as the Egyptian Book of the Dead, Chapter 153 contains a declaration, "O fishermen, you shall not catch me in your net, for I know the net from its upper heights to its lower depths." That's a line of power. It means the initiate has transcended illusion. They're no longer a victim of the net. They are its master. Now let's talk about the so-called gods. Egyptian texts didn't refer to these beings as gods in the modern sense. The word they used was neter, translated more accurately as force of nature or divine principle. These weren't external deities to be worshipped. They were conscious energies woven into the net itself. Every neter was like a node, a point of awareness in the cosmic web. The goal of the initiate wasn't to bow before these forces, but to align with them, to awaken them within. That's why they were often shown with animal heads, not because Egyptians worshipped animals, but because each animal expressed a particular quality of consciousness. Take Thoth, or Jehuti, the ibis-headed neter of wisdom and sacred knowledge. He wasn't just a myth, he was the embodiment of intelligence itself, the architect of the initiatory science. His servants? Shown as baboons casting nets into water, not to fish, but to rescue souls from unconsciousness. Now here's where it gets really wild. Among the highest initiates in Egypt were those who mastered the net to such a degree they could control physical forces with their will. They were said to part waters, heal the sick, even raise the dead. One such figure appears in the Westcar Papyrus, a man known as a Jedi, a title derived from the Jed pillar, the symbol of divine stability and the spinal axis connecting earth and heaven. This Jedi could part an entire lake to retrieve a lost item. He could summon energies no ordinary human could control. Sound familiar? This is the true origin of the Jedi mythos from Star Wars. The name, the abilities, even the staff that channels energy. It's all rooted in the ancient Egyptian Jedi lineage. George Lucas didn't pull it from thin air. He drew on a deep archetype that humanity still remembers on a subconscious level. And the echoes didn't stop there. The biblical figure Moses, raised in Pharaoh's court, was not a mere political figure. He was trained in the very temples we're talking about, initiated into the secret knowledge of the net. The staff he wielded, the miracles he performed, the parting of the Red Sea. These weren't random acts. They were technologies of consciousness and geometry learned from the temple initiates. Even the design of the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest that held divine energy, was constructed using the same sacred proportions found in Egyptian temple science. It was a portable power node, a grid amplifier. You see, these weren't isolated myths. They were part of an unbroken lineage of those who knew how to work with the grid, those who had awakened the pattern within. As Egyptian temple wisdom began to fade from public view, its core teachings didn't disappear. They simply transformed, hidden in new symbols, encoded in new languages. In the Western mystical traditions, that sacred net reappeared in the book of Genesis. The very first line in Hebrew, Bereshit, usually translated as "in the beginning," has a deeper meaning in the mystical Kabbalah. God creates the net. That's right. The net wasn't just part of the Egyptian mystery schools. It was embedded into the creation story of the Hebrew Bible. And this wasn't a metaphor. It was the same energetic matrix, the same vibrational grid spoken of in the temples of Thoth. In fact, Hebrew letters themselves were said to be flames, each one carrying a specific vibration. The 22 letters were seen as tools of creation, forming combinations known as the 231 gates, a sacred map of divine energy flow. The net had simply taken on a new form. The most powerful expression of this net in Jewish mysticism is the Tree of Life, a sacred geometry diagram made of 10 spheres and 22 connecting paths. But don't let the simplicity fool you. The Tree of Life isn't just a diagram, it's a cosmic roadmap. Each sphere, or sephira, corresponds to a plane of existence, a state of consciousness, and a part of the human body. The paths between them? They're the channels of energy that move between levels of awareness. The tree is not just about you, it's within you. The Kabbalists taught that aligning with this pattern could unlock hidden power in your energy field. That by working with it, visualizing it, meditating on it, you could ascend through the layers of reality and become a co-creator of your world. In modern times, a Greek Christian mystic known as Daskalos referred to this same pattern as the symbol of life. He taught that activating it, step by step, could literally change your spiritual destiny. This is where knowledge becomes power. You don't need to believe anything blindly. This isn't dogma, it's a practice, one that begins by simply recognizing that your energy field has structure, that consciousness moves through patterns, and that sacred geometry isn't just art, it's architecture for your soul. We call it the grid of life design, or GOLD, an acronym that reminds us of what this work truly does. It activates the golden energy within you, the same golden glow that surrounds saints in ancient art, that radiant crown of light around sages and mystics. It's not just symbolic, it's real, and it's waiting for you. We begin the gold activation, where all journeys start. The head, the seat of your consciousness. This is where the crown opens, where divine energy enters. It's the gateway to the higher planes, and the place where your personal net, your internal grid, starts to align with the universal pattern. When this center activates, you begin to feel it. Your thoughts clarify. Your vision sharpens, not just your outer sight, but your inner knowing. The noise fades. The signal comes in clear. You're no longer just reacting to life. You're participating in the design of it. So what happens when enough people activate the gold grid? When thousands or millions align their consciousness with the sacred pattern? A shift, not just individually, but globally. The Earth grid, the net of the planet, responds to human consciousness. And when we rise, it rises with us. This is not a metaphor. This is the real work of awakening. Not escape from the world, but transformation through it. The ancients called it initiation. We call it evolution. And it begins with you.